Are you serious? Watch where you're going, you old bat, Lucy snapped. Ifemi laughed coldly.
She's probably too blind to see the world now. Just a dirty, useless thing in the way. In fact, the thunder of this rain will strike you. Look at her clothes. Ripped and stained. Probably hasn't washed in weeks.
Lucy sneered. I don't know why she even bothers. No one wants to touch a hag like her, Ifemi said.
Exactly. Just another beggar trying to get sympathy,
Lucy finished. The clouds had turned dark by late afternoon, and the streets of the city began to flood with the steady beat of rain. People hurried along the sidewalks with umbrellas, coats, and shopping bags, trying to avoid the storm. But in the middle of all the movement stood a lone, frail old woman. She had no umbrella, no coat, and no one to help her. Her clothes were soaked, clinging to her thin body, and her grey hair was plastered to her face. Her hands trembled as she tried to step forward, her sandals slapping against the wet pavement. She looked tired. Lost. Forgotten. And that was exactly how Lucy and Ifemi found her. They were on their way to the shopping centre, laughing under one big umbrella, when they nearly bumped into the old woman who stood directly in their path. Ah, are you serious? Lucy snapped, recoiling. Watch where you're going, you old bat. The woman blinked slowly, confused, shivering from the cold. I'm sorry, she murmured. I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? Ifemi snapped. You nearly ruined my heels walking like a zombie. The woman's lips quivered. I just need to find my way. I'm not sure where I am. Lucy rolled her eyes and stepped closer with disgust on her face. Oh, please, save the drama. You're probably one of those beggars who fake being weak so people feel sorry for you. And then, in a moment so cruel it drew gasps from a few people walking by, Lucy leaned forward and spat on the woman's shoulder. There, she said mockingly. A little bath to go with the rain. You need it. Ifemi laughed hard, clapping her hands like it was a joke. Come on, Lucy. Let's get away from this stink. They stormed off, their laughter echoing down the street, while the old woman stood frozen spit dripping down her shoulder, tears mixing with the rain. No one else stopped. No one else cared. But then minutes later, Jenny stepped out of her small cafe across the street. She had seen the scene through the cafe window, and though she couldn't hear what was said, she saw enough to know that the woman needed help. Jenny didn't hesitate. She ran into the rain, straight toward the woman, taking off her own hoodie and wrapping it gently around the woman's shoulders. Oh my God, are you okay? Jenny asked, her voice filled with concern. Let's get you out of this weather. The woman blinked at her in surprise. Her eyes, tired and red, softened at the sight of Jenny's kindness. I don't want to be a bother. You're not, Jenny said firmly. Come with me. My cafe is right there. I'll get you warm, and you can rest a bit. She helped the old woman across the road carefully. The woman walked slowly, shaking with each step, but Jenny was patient, shielding her with her umbrella and holding her arm the whole way. Inside the cafe, Jenny quickly settled her into a booth near the heater. She brought her a dry towel, a cup of tea, and even a warm muffin from the counter. What's your name? Jenny asked, gently drying the woman's hands. Agatha, the woman replied softly. Just Agatha. Well, Miss Agatha, you're safe now. Don't worry about anything. Mrs. Agatha looked up at Jenny and smiled, small, weak, but deeply sincere. You're not like the others. Jenny gave a modest shrug. I just believe in treating people how I'd want to be treated. That's all. Just then, the door to the cafe opened, and in walked Lucy and Ifemi, laughing and brushing off their wet shoulders. Jenny tensed but said nothing. As they moved toward the counter, they saw Agatha sitting in the booth. Their laughter stopped cold. Lucy narrowed her eyes. You again, she said loudly. Are you stalking me, old woman? Ifemi chimed in with a scoff. What, you followed us here now? Trying to beg for food too? Jenny stood immediately, stepping in front of them. "Stop it," she said sharply. Lucy blinked. "Excuse me." "You heard me. That woman is my guest. You don't get to walk in here and insult her after what you did outside." "Oh please, Jen," Lucy said with a laugh. "You're seriously defending this ratty old woman. Look at her, she's filthy." Jenny's eyes narrowed. "Then maybe you should look in the mirror and see what filth really looks like." The cafe fell quiet. Mrs. Agatha didn't say a word. She only sipped her tea, watching the scene quietly. Lucy and Ifemi stared for a moment, taken aback by Jenny's sudden strength. Then, with scoffs and eye rolls, they turned and walked out, muttering to themselves. When they were gone, Jenny sat down again with Mrs. Agatha, breathing heavily. "I'm so sorry," she said. "They weren't always like that. I don't know what's gotten into them." Mrs. Agatha didn't look angry. In fact, she looked peaceful. She reached across the table and gently touched Jenny's hand. "It's all right, my dear. One day, people like that will get what they deserve. And people like you," her voice trailed off, but her eyes sparkled. "People like you will shine." The rain had slowed to a soft drizzle as Jenny helped Mrs. Agatha put on the hood of the jacket she'd lent her. Outside, the cold night air bit through Jenny's thin clothes, but she barely noticed. Her focus was on getting the old woman somewhere safe and warm. "Where do you live, Miss Agatha?" Jenny asked gently. Mrs. Agatha hesitated for a moment, then whispered, "Not far, just down this street, on Willow Lane. It's an old house, not much to look at, I'm afraid." Jenny smiled warmly. "That's okay. It's better to have a place to call home than no place at all." The walk was slow. Mrs. Agatha's steps were uneven, and Jenny made sure to support her whenever the old woman stumbled. The streets around them had emptied out, except for the occasional car splashing through puddles and the distant hum of city life. As they turned onto Willow Lane, Jenny's heart sank. The houses here were old and worn, their paint peeling and windows cracked. The streetlight flickered weakly, casting long shadows over the uneven pavement. Mrs. Agatha stopped in front of a small, crumbling house that looked like it had been forgotten by time. "This is it," she said softly. Jenny looked at the house, feeling a pang of sympathy. The front porch sagged, the wood warped by years of rain and neglect. The door was chipped, and the windows were dusty and dark. "It's cozy," Jenny said with a gentle smile, hoping to lift Miss Agatha's spirits. Miss Agatha returned the smile, a hint of pride in her eyes. "It may not look like much, but it's my shelter." Jenny reached out and helped her inside. The house smelled of dust, old wood, and something faintly floral, perhaps a remnant of happier times. The floorboards creaked under their feet, and the dim light from a single lamp revealed faded wallpaper and a small living room cluttered with a few worn-out chairs and a crooked bookshelf. Jenny took off her wet shoes and looked around. "Do you live here alone?" Mrs. Agatha nodded. "Yes, I've lived here for many years. Not many visitors, though." Jenny's heart ached. "Well, maybe that can change." The old woman chuckled softly. "You're very kind, Jenny, but kindness is rare these days." Jenny shook her head. "I don't believe that. I think kindness is like a seed, it just needs the right soil to grow." Mrs. Agatha's eyes twinkled. "You have a hopeful heart. That is good." Suddenly, the silence was broken by the sharp ding of Jenny's phone. She pulled it out of her pocket and saw a message from Lucy. "Jenny, are you stalking us or what? Saw you with that old hag again. Some people have no shame." Jenny's jaw tightened. She didn't want to give Lucy the satisfaction of a reply. Mrs. Agatha noticed Jenny's expression and asked quietly, "Are your friends kind to you?" Jenny gave a small, tired smile. "They don't understand me. They think helping people is a weakness." Mrs. Agatha's gaze was steady. Sometimes, the people closest to us cannot see our true strength, but that is their loss, not ours. Jenny looked around the small house again and felt a strange sense of peace despite the worn walls. She realized this woman, though seemingly fragile, carried something powerful within her. "Thank you, Jenny, for being the light on a dark night," Mrs. Agatha said softly. Jenny smiled. "Anytime, Mrs. Agatha. You're not alone." As the rain continued to fall outside, Jenny stayed a little longer, sharing stories and laughter with Mrs. Agatha. And somewhere deep inside, Jenny sensed this night would be the beginning of something unexpected, something that would change her life forever. The following morning, Jenny woke up with a slight chill, her clothes still damp from the night before. She had stayed longer than she planned at Mrs. Agatha's house, talking, listening, just being there, and by the time she got home, it was past midnight. As she got ready for her shift at the cafe, she thought briefly about the old woman. There was something calm and steady in Mrs. Agatha's presence, despite her living conditions. But Jenny didn't overthink it. Not everything had to be a mystery. Sometimes people were just good. The cafe was busier than usual that morning. Jenny tied her apron, brushed the hair from her eyes, and got to work taking orders, clearing tables, pouring coffee. She moved like a machine, but her heart remained light, remembering how Mrs. Agatha had smiled when she left the groceries on her counter for the night before. That was enough. It wasn't until late morning that the bell above the cafe door jingled, and in walked Lucy and Ifemi. The storm hadn't dulled their energy. If anything, they looked more smug than ever. "Well, well, well," Lucy said, sliding into their usual booth. "Look who's up early. Still playing guardian angel." Ifemi smirked. "Yeah, we saw your little charity case last night. You seriously walked her home?" Jenny didn't reply. She grabbed 2 clean mugs, filled them with their usual orders, and brought them over without a word. "Oh, come on," Lucy added with a chuckle. "Don't act like you're some kind of saint. That woman probably scammed you for free tea and sympathy." Jenny finally looked at her, her expression calm. She didn't ask for anything. I helped because she needed it. Ifemi leaned in like she was about to share a juicy secret. "You better be careful, Jen. People like her, they're either con artists or ghosts." Jenny sighed. "Or maybe," she said softly, "they're just people who've been through more than we know." Lucy laughed loudly. "Look at you, Philosopher of the Year. Should we get you a cape and call you Captain Kindness?" Jenny ignored her and walked away, their laughter slowly fading behind her. Still, she didn't regret a thing. Later, that afternoon, when her shift ended, Jenny stopped at a corner store and picked up a few items: some bread, a pack of eggs, and 2 apples. She didn't have much, but she wanted to make sure Miss Agatha had something to eat. The streets were quieter now, the rain only a mist in the air. As she approached Willow Lane, the familiar worn-down houses greeted her again. She stopped at the same door, raised her hand, and knocked gently. No answer. She knocked again, just a little louder this time. After a pause, the door creaked open. Miss Agatha stood there in her usual clothes, simple, old, but her hair was neater today, her hands freshly washed. "Jenny," she said with a light smile. "Back so soon?" Jenny held up the bag. "Just a few groceries. I thought you might need something." "You didn't have to do that," Mrs. Agatha said softly as she stepped aside to let her in. "I know," Jenny replied, "but I wanted to." Inside, the small home was just as quiet and dusty as before, but there was something cozy about it now. Jenny moved toward the counter and began unpacking the items. They shared light conversation as Mrs. Agatha put on some hot water. She didn't speak much about herself, only asked about Jenny's job, her goals, her dreams. Jenny told her about wanting to work in tech and how she had been applying to companies whenever she could. "It's tough," Jenny admitted, "but I'm not giving up." Mrs. Agatha listened closely, nodding gently. "That determination will take you far, dear." That evening, after closing the cafe, Jenny sat on the counter with her phone, scrolling through job listings and checking her emails. A new message popped up, and her eyes widened when she read the subject line. "Invitation to Langley Enterprises Executive Meet and Greet." She tapped it open, heart pounding. "Dear Jenny Williams, we are pleased to invite you to a special event hosted by Langley Enterprises. This exclusive meet and greet is part of our talent scouting program for future roles within the company. Please confirm your attendance. Congratulations. Jenny's jaw dropped. Langley Enterprises? She had applied there months ago with no response. She hadn't even expected a callback, let alone a personal invite to a private event. Her heart raced with disbelief and excitement. She had no idea how it happened. But one thing was sure: her journey was about to take a dramatic turn. Jenny stood in front of her small mirror, adjusting the simple navy blue dress she had chosen for the Langley event. It wasn't designer, or even new. It was second-hand from a thrift shop. But she'd ironed it twice, paired it with a neat pair of flats, and done her hair in a modest bun. She didn't care about standing out, she just wanted to look like she belonged. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the invite in her bag. The event was being held at a luxury hotel downtown, the kind Jenny only passed by when walking to catch the bus. As she stepped out of her apartment and into the waiting evening, her heart pounded. She couldn't shake the feeling that tonight would change everything. But she had no idea just how right she was. The Langley event. The hotel lobby was nothing short of stunning. Polished marble floors, sparkling chandeliers, and golden accents that gleamed in the soft lighting. Jenny walked through the grand entrance, trying not to let her awe show. A hostess smiled and guided her to the elevator leading to the top floor. When the doors opened, Jenny stepped into a world unlike any she'd seen. The rooftop ballroom was filled with well-dressed people chatting over glasses of champagne. Laughter danced in the air and soft music hummed in the background. A long glass wall revealed a breathtaking view of the city skyline. She tried to steady her breathing as she made her way toward the refreshment table, trying not to bump into anyone. "Jenny Williams?" a voice called out behind her. She turned quickly. A woman in a sleek grey suit approached with a warm smile. "Hi, I'm Nadia, from Langley's recruitment team. We're so glad you could make it. Your application stood out to us." Jenny managed a smile. Thank you so much. I'm honoured to be here. We'll have some of the board members and executives circulating tonight. Don't be nervous. Just be yourself," Nadia said kindly before moving on. Jenny nodded, heart racing. As she turned back toward the refreshment table, she suddenly froze. Standing on the other side of the room, confident, elegant, and glowing in a deep emerald gown, was a woman she knew. Yes, but not the frail old woman with torn slippers and a shivering voice. No, this version of Mrs. Agatha stood tall, composed, and radiant. Her hair was styled, her jewellery subtle but expensive, and her smile serene as she spoke to a group of sharply dressed men and women. Jenny's breath caught. No way, that can't be her. But it was. The same eyes, the same voice when she finally looked up met Jenny's stunned gaze, and a calm, knowing smile. Jenny couldn't move. It was like the world around her had gone quiet. Mrs. Agatha excused herself from the conversation she was in and walked toward her. "Jenny," she said gently, as if this were the most natural place to meet. "I'm glad you came." Jenny blinked. Yeah, you're... What is this? What's going on?" Mrs. Agatha gave a soft chuckle. "You didn't think I'd let someone like you go unnoticed, did you?" Jenny was too stunned to speak. Just then, a tall, sharply dressed man joined them. He looked to be in his late 20s, with striking features and calm confidence in his step. "James, this is the young woman I was telling you about," Mrs. Agatha said. "The one who didn't look at me with pity or disgust. The one who helped me when everyone else looked away." James turned to Jenny and extended a hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you. I've heard a lot about you." Jenny barely managed to shake it, still trying to connect the dots. "I don't understand. You..." "How?" Mrs. Agatha smiled, her voice quiet but firm. "Jenny, my name is Agatha Langley. I'm the founder's widow, and James is my son. We own Langley Enterprises." Jenny's knees nearly gave way. Across the room. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ballroom, Lucy and Ifeme, there as +1S to executives they were trying to impress, spotted Mrs. Agatha and nearly choked on their wine. Their eyes widened further when they saw Jenny. Jenny standing beside her, talking and laughing with a man who looked like a billionaire prince. "What the?" Lucy whispered. Ifeme couldn't even form words. They had mocked her, spat on her, humiliated Jenny for helping her. And now, here she was, standing with the Langleys. Regret settled in fast. And it burned. The ballroom shimmered with soft golden light, but Jenny barely noticed it anymore. Her mind was spinning. Mrs. Agatha Langley, the same woman she had walked home in the rain, the same woman her friends spat on and insulted, now stood like royalty beside her, her eyes full of pride. Jenny took a breath. "Why didn't you say anything back then?" Agatha smiled gently. "Because I wasn't looking for someone who was kind because of status or recognition. I wanted to see who would be kind when no one was watching, who would help without knowing what they might gain." Jenny's heart ached, not out of confusion anymore, but awe. "And you," Mrs. Agatha added, "you didn't hesitate." James, standing beside his mother, added with a warm grin. "You made quite an impression. My mother doesn't hand out compliments easily." Jenny chuckled nervously, but it was genuine. "I was just being human." "Exactly," Agatha said. "And that's what we need more of, in life and in this company." Before Jenny could respond, an announcement rang through the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, if we could have your attention for a moment." A man in a sleek black tuxedo stood at the center of the stage. "We'd like to recognize someone special tonight. At Langley Enterprises, we value innovation, but also integrity, compassion, and vision. These are rare traits, and when we find them in someone, we don't let them go unnoticed." Jenny looked around, wondering who the spotlight was for, until the man continued, "Please help us welcome Jenny Williams." Jenny froze. The crowd turned to look at her. A soft murmur ran through the guests as Agatha gently touched her elbow. "Go on, dear," she said with a warm smile. "You've earned it." Jenny stepped up slowly. The man handed her a sleek envelope. "We're offering you a full-time position on our creative development team," he said, and the room filled with polite applause. "We believe in your potential, Jenny. Welcome to Langley." Her hands shook as she accepted it. She looked over at Agatha and James. They nodded proudly. Bittersweet justice. At the far end of the ballroom, Lucy stood stiffly, her face pale. Ifeme's mouth hung open. "She's working for them?" Lucy hissed. "She's with them!" Ifeme's voice was a whisper. "We spat on her." They watched helplessly as Jenny laughed with Agatha as James handed her a glass of sparkling water like an equal. No mocking, no sneering, just respect. "Do you think she'll tell them what we did?" Lucy asked, now panicking. "She doesn't have to," Ifeme said bitterly. "They already chose her. We're invisible now." Neither of them approached Jenny that night. They couldn't. Shame kept them still. After the event, Jenny walked out into the night air with Agatha and James. "You're quiet," Agatha said. Jenny smiled. "Still taking it in. Feels like a dream." James chuckled. "You'd be surprised how often real life turns out better than dreams, when you do the right thing," Agatha added. "Jenny, the world needs people like you. And my son, well, he's been too surrounded by people who want something from him. I needed to know what kind of woman would help a stranger with no name, no fortune, just need." Jenny looked at her. "And now?" Agatha's eyes sparkled. "Now I know I've found her." Jenny blushed. James smiled beside her, silent but thoughtful. 6 months later, Jenny adjusted her desk lamp inside her corner office at Langley HQ. She still wasn't used to the view, or the title beneath her nameplate, Creative Strategy Associate. The work was challenging, fulfilling and respected. She had a voice in rooms she never thought she'd enter. She had also grown close to Agatha, visiting her often, not because of her status, but because they had built a quiet, beautiful bond. James had become a friend first, kind, witty, honest, and slowly something more. Lucy and Ifeme, they drifted off like wind-blown leaves. The last Jenny had heard, they were still hopping parties, trying to impress the next somebody. But Jenny, she no longer needed to chase approval. She had walked through the storm, literally and figuratively, and come out on the other side, not just seen, but chosen. Because in a world full of watchers, she had been a doer. She hadn't known the old woman was a billionaire, but she had known what it meant to be kind. And in the end, that made all the difference. 1 year later, the bells of a quiet countryside chapel rang joyfully. Jenny stood hand in hand with James Langley, now her husband. Dressed in a simple but elegant gown, she smiled through happy tears. From a rainy cafe to the heart of one of the country's most powerful families, her journey had been nothing short of incredible. Mrs. Agatha, graceful as ever, stood proudly in the front row. "I knew," she whispered to herself, "the moment she offered me tea in the rain." The wedding was small, but filled with people who truly cared. No fake smiles, no shallow compliments, just love. In the back, Lucy and Ifeme stood quietly, watching with tight smiles and heavy hearts. They hadn't been invited. Jenny's grace allowed them to watch, not to celebrate. "She's really marrying him," Ifeme whispered. "After all we said, all we did," Lucy murmured. She still rose. They left early. There was nothing else to say. Jenny's life changed, not because she chased wealth, but because she chose goodness. She continued working at Langley Enterprises, not because she needed to, but because she loved to. She started a foundation with Agatha to help struggling women find shelter, support, and jobs. Her story was shared in newspapers, at charity events, and on quiet cafe tables where people whispered, "Did you hear about the girl who helped an old woman in the rain?" Moral lessons. Kindness doesn't cost anything, but it pays the highest rewards. London, help people when they need it, not when it's convenient. Don't judge anyone by what they wear, where they live, or how they look. Your worst mistake could be mocking someone meant to change your life. Character shines when no one's watching. And above all, never be ashamed to do what's right. Jenny never knew the old woman she helped was a billionaire mother disguised to find a wife for her son. But by helping her anyway, she found not just love, she found purpose.